let's jump right in. Today we're talking about the invisible walls that shape everyday life for millions of people with disabilities. We're going to explore how these aren't just small hurdles, but massive barriers that affect, well, pretty much everything.
But before we get into the details, I want you to just think about this for a second. Seriously, what if leaving your house, getting to work, or just meeting up with a friend meant you had to navigate a crazy, sometimes impossible obstacle course? Just keep that idea in your head as we go through this.
Okay, so let's start with the most obvious, most tangible barriers, the ones that are literally built into the world all around us.
At its heart, the ability to just move around is a fundamental human right. It's how you participate in society, how you stay independent. It's how you just exist in the world.
But for so many people, that right is basically stolen from them every single day. And why? Well, it's because the world we all depend on just wasn't built with them in mind.
And this isn't some abstract idea. We're talking about really specific things. A bus you can't get on, a sidewalk that's basically a dead end, a traffic light you can't safely use. And if you live in a rural area, forget about it. There might be no public transport at all, leaving you totally isolated. Every single one is another door slammed shut.
And this problem, it doesn't just stop at the street corner. It follows you all the way home. There's this really powerful idea that when housing is inaccessible, doors that are too narrow, bathrooms you can't use, it literally makes people hostages to their family circumstances. It's a trap that just robs them of their independence.
So you see, these physical walls, they don't just block your path. They build even bigger, more systemic barriers. Let's look at how they cut off access to opportunity itself.
When we break down the things you need to build a life, education, a job, healthcare, you see these huge blockages. Let's start with the one that's the foundation for everything else, education.
And this is where you see this massive gap between the promise and what's actually happening. The promise is an inclusive school, a place for every single child. But the reality? It's often schools flat out refusing to admit a student. Or maybe they're accepted, but without any of the tools they actually need to learn, like books in Braille or teachers who know how to support them.
And this cycle of exclusion just continues right into the professional world. Even if someone is totally qualified for a job, they slam into these invisible walls of stigma. You have employers who just assume that a person with a disability can't do the work, and that prejudice, that bias, becomes the reason they don't get hired.
So then what about getting support from the system? Well, that's often a bureaucratic maze. Just imagine having to show up over and over again to a government building you can barely get into to fill out paper forms that aren't available online. It's almost like it's designed to make you give up.
The impact of these walls goes way beyond just work and school. It isolates people from the community, from social life, and even from the digital world that we all pretty much live in now.
Think about it. Museums you can't navigate, community festivals with no sign language interpreters, even places that just straight up refuse to let you in. And this isn't a small thing. Being locked out of social and cultural life is a huge blow to your mental health, to your sense of belonging.
And when you're excluded socially, you tend to get excluded politically too. With almost no representation in government, the people who are actually affected by all these barriers have very little say in fixing them. So you end up with policies that are made for them instead of with them, and they almost always miss the point.
Now, in this day and age, you'd think technology would be the great equalizer, right? But more often than not, it's just another wall. The huge majority of websites are not built to be accessible, which shuts people out of everything from online banking and applying for jobs to just connecting with friends.
So we've talked about physical barriers, systemic barriers, and social barriers, but they all stand on one single foundation. So now, let's talk about the hardest, most fundamental wall of all.
And this gets right to the absolute core of the issue. All those other barriers we've just walked through, they're really just symptoms of this one deep-seated problem, the way society as a whole thinks about disability.
And this is the wall that holds all the others in place. Society tends to shove people with disabilities into these tiny, dehumanizing boxes. You're either seen as pitiful and helpless, or if you accomplish something, you're suddenly a superhero. But both of those labels completely erase the simple truth. They are just human beings, full stop, with the same hopes, flaws, and dreams as anybody else.
So we're going to end on this note. Now that you can see the walls, I want you to start looking for them in your own world, your job, your favorite coffee shop, your town's website. What are the invisible barriers there? And what can we start doing to tear them down?